guys, and welcome to Escape with Watch Reviews. My name is Steve, and today we're going to be reviewing the Martin SN0129G. I got the reviewer's discount on this watch, probably a little bit better than what you're going to see in the upcoming sale, but I still paid well over $200 for this thing, so I'll be reviewing it at its retail or its sale prices. If by the end of this review you want to pick one of these up, I'll be leaving a link down in the video description. That is an affiliate link. You guys don't pay any extra. I just earn a little bit of commission on each sale, and that helps keep the channel going, helps get watches like this on the channel. So huge thank you goes out to anyone who's ever used one of my links. The retail price for this watch is $343 US. That's before any taxes, sales, coupons, custom duties, anything like that. Currently, I see a $30 off coupon. That's from San Martin, so that brings the price down a little bit. And then we're in the midst of the anniversary sale, so I'm sure we'll be seeing even more savings. So this version comes in 3 different stone dial options, which you can see here. The lapis lazuli, which is what we have here. We have the white marble, and then the black aventurine. In addition to these, we also have more colors and more textures available, which I'm flashing up on screen now. So there's bound to be one that you're going to like. There's plenty of options with this watch. The watch case is made of 316L stainless steel. It has a sapphire crystal, a screw-down crown, a screw-down case back, 100 meters of claimed water resistance, and the watch is powered by the Seiko NH34 automatic GMT movement. So I was always kind of on the fence about this watch. None of the previous dials really spoke to me, and I had some concerns about the design, but now that I have it in hand and they give the new dials, which I really do like, what are my thoughts? So the watch is definitely on the more expensive side for an AliExpress watch. Is kind of what we're coming to expect from San Martin in their kind of upper tier watches. And yeah, I mean, it's a very, very nice watch, and we'll get into all the details here real quick. But before we do a quick wrist check. Today, wearing the Baltony Mono Pusher. It's a really unusual watch. It's got a mother of pearl dial. A review for this one will be coming up very soon. Yeah, one kind of deal breaker with that one though. All right, so let's get to the dimensions. Got a case diameter of 39.5, case thickness of 13.5 millimeters. We've got 20 millimeter lug width, lug tip to lug tip of 46.6 millimeters, and sized up for my 7.5 inch wrist. With one link removed, it weighs 147 grams. So I think the size on this thing is great, and I think it actually wears a little bit smaller than 39.5. You can see it's a very asymmetrical case. You got big crown guards on this side here. The bezel itself is 38 millimeters in diameter, so that just gives you an idea. It does wear closer to a 38 than a 39, almost 40 millimeter watch. So yeah, I do like the size of it. You get decent curve down to the lugs. It is a somewhat of a flat case there, but a nice thin mid case. But yeah, I think it wears really good. The bracelet just tapers straight down, as you can see there, or hangs straight down. So it's going to fit a lot of wrist sizes in my opinion. Nice short lug to lug as well. And visually, you know, all the polishing kind of slims down these lugs too. So yeah, I do like the way this wears. I'm going to go outside right now and throw it on my wrist for you. So here we are on my 7.5 inch wrist, and as you can see, I personally think this wears just perfect. I think it wears a little bit smaller just because the bezel is smaller, and really you got 1.5 millimeters or so on the crown guards there. So I do think it wears closer to a 38 than a 39.5. You can see there you got pretty decent curve down to the lugs as well. I love the light play off of all those chamfers and the crystal, and you can see the dial looks mostly black or really, really dark blue, but you can definitely see those flakes there in the dial, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But yeah, underneath this tree always gives issues as far as legibility goes, but in my opinion, I think it's pretty legible. And now popping out in some direct sunlight, you can see direct light right on the dial there. You can see how it reacts. I think the crystal itself has some pretty good AR coating on it. The dial itself is very reflective though, which kind of gives it somewhat of an issue in lighting conditions like this, but that almost never happens. For the most part, it's a very legible dial. And there you can see a nice pop of blue there with the goldish, silverish kind of sheen to it, and the pattern on the dial. I think it all looks really, really good. Yeah, I like it a lot. I'm going to go throw it on some straps, and we'll get back to this review. Here we are on a Vario vintage leather. You can see nice taper to the strap as well. I think that looks pretty good on this watch. I like the chamfers on the inside of the lugs there. I think they make it look really nice, actually. What do you guys think of that one? Here we are on a black rubber strap. This is from Strapsco. Gives it a pretty sporty look in my opinion. I think that actually looks pretty good, and I really like the lighting here. You can see around those crown guards there, you can see just the reflections on those polished surfaces. Just trying to give you guys some more lighting conditions here. That crow agrees. Holy smokes, he's loud. Alright, gonna throw it on another strap here. And here we are on a hemsuit brown leather strap, dark brown, simple stitching. I think that looks really good, and you can see once that sun catches it, get a nice pop of blue there. And lastly, here we are on a nylon strap. There's 2 layers underneath the watch there. This is a strap that's just lifted off of a Heimdallr that I have. The color match is actually pretty good. I was quite surprised by that, and I actually think that looks pretty good. You know, even with 2 layers underneath the watch, I don't think it looks too tall or anything like that. So, and then no issues with clearances between the spring bars and the case or anything. So you're gonna be able to fit a lot of straps on this thing. But I think that does look pretty good. What do you guys think? All right, let's go back inside and let's get back to this review. All right, so let's talk about the case finishing on this thing. So case finishing is a mixture of brushed and polished surfaces. And again, up to San Martin standards, it is done beautifully. You have a vertical brushing on this flat bezel, as you can see here. Really nicely done, nice and linear and even and consistent and straight up and down. Looks really good. You got nice deep engravings on the numerals there filled with matte black paint. Again, I think it just looks really good. They did a very good job on it. You can see the bezel transitions with a really nice polished chamfer there down to a circular brushing on the bottom edge of the bezel. One of the issues I had in the pictures of this thing is the flat bezel here. It kind of looks a little chunky. I think I'd prefer a sloped bezel, but it doesn't look as bad in person. So just something to note. If you were always worried about that bezel, I wouldn't worry too much about it. And they definitely could have done something a little different on it, but for the most part, it just kind of blends into the design for me. So not a huge deal. Working our way to the mid case here, you have beautiful satin brushing on the tops of the lugs there. You have this beautiful polish section in between that brushing and the lug openings, and you can even see here inside the lug openings, it'll show up really good on this side over here. They kind of continued that brushing on the case. Really interesting attention to detail, not something you typically see on a watch like this, so pretty nice that they did that. You can see here you have brushing on the sides of the case, really nice satinized brushing. Again, really sharp polished chamfers. Those chamfers are beautifully done. They catch the light beautifully. You have these nice big crown guards on the side here, signed screw down crown, really big polished area there on the crown guards. And again, just razor sharp transitions and ultra smooth polishing. The case finishing on this watch is next level. I can't really say anything more about it. It's one of their better ones, definitely. Working our way to the case back here, simple circular brushing on the case back, simple notches to get a tool in, sterile case back, which is what we expect from San Martin. Yeah, really overall no big issues with this thing. Circular brushing on the bottom of the lugs. One nice thing about the case here is that this bottom edge here, you can see that nice polished chamfer there. So there's absolutely 0 sharp edges on this thing. It's nice and smooth and super comfortable on wrist. One of the things that San Martin's always had an issue with is this bottom edge here. It's always been this really sharp. And over time on the wrist, it can be a little uncomfortable, but not on this model. It is just buttery smooth. So overall, the case finishing on this is definitely one of San Martin's better watches. All right, so let's talk about the crystal. First things first, we'll test it for sapphire. It is positive for sapphire. So no surprise there, it is a sapphire crystal. It is a box top hat style, as you can see there. So a little bit of distortion on the edges. It's a pretty sharp transition there. It's not a big dome, so clarity on the dial is excellent as well. I think the crystal itself is very good. However, the dial is very reflective, and that's where you're seeing a lot of the reflections go. So I think there's plenty of AR coating on the crystal itself. It's a blue AR coating, so it blends in nicely with this one. It might be an issue on the white or the black, but for this model, I think it works pretty good. I did see someone else mention that the crystal on theirs is pretty reflective, they feel. I don't think it's the crystal. I think a lot of it is coming from the dial. So just something to consider. Either way, you're going to get a lot of reflections on this just because of the design and the materials used on the dial. So just something to consider, but I do really like the crystal on it. I think it looks good. However, I think a flat crystal would have been fine on this thing. I don't see why they had to do a boxed crystal. But that's just my personal preference. I always like these box crystals, but in this case, I think a flat one would have been fine as well. Right, so let's get real close and we'll talk about the dial on this thing. And the dial is absolutely stunning. First off, we're going to talk about the chapter ring. It has a sloped chapter ring, as you can see here over at the 9 o'clock, very dark blue. I think it matches the dial really nice. They did a good job matching that color, despite one being a stone and one being plastic or metal. They did a really good job on it. I think it looks good, nice and clean. And then you have the dial itself, which is a blue lapis lazuli. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. It's a natural stone, so you're going to get variation from dial to dial. You can see this one has a concentration of pattern there at the 10 o'clock position. So lapis lazuli has a bunch of different minerals in it, but the big one is pyrite. So I think that's what we're seeing there. Pyrite is, fool's gold. So it's kind of got like a goldish silver and tan color to it. You can see here, that's the color you can see here. But when it hits the light just right, it just reflects silver. It looks really, really good. And then outside of that, I mean, it just has a really cool texture to it and pattern to it. It's a really deep blue, almost an indigo color. It is absolutely gorgeous. I love the color of this thing. Most of the time it looks like a very, very, very dark blue, but under really good lighting conditions, it kind of pops that blue and it looks really good. So you have applied indices at all the hour markers. Nice big one there at 12 o'clock. Slightly smaller ones at 6 and 9 o'clock, and then slightly smaller ones at all the other hour markers. You have a framed date window here, and you can see the date is set quite deep when you look at it on an angle like that. So you can tell that the stone dials are going to be thicker than like a metal dial. So yeah, that's where you can kind of see that. So it is a little bit of a thicker dial. The date window does sit down in there, kind of gets lost from time to time, but for the most part, it's fine. I see no issues with it. Date is nicely centered in there as well. You have your applied St. Martin hex logo, and then you have your GMT text in red with automatic and 100 meters down at 6 o'clock. Everything is done nicely. It's applied nice and straight. I see nothing out of alignment. It looks really good. The handset that they used on this, I'm not really sure the style of hands, what this is called, but it's kind of like blade hands or dagger hands almost. Really nicely done though. Very happy with them. Nice high polish. There's no faceting or anything like that, but I think they look really, really good. Very happy with the handset on this thing. They're unique. It's not an homage or anything like that to anything that I'm aware of, besides, the case is, but the dial I don't think is. So yeah, really happy with the indices, really happy with the hands. You got your pop of red there on the GMT and on the second hand there. You can see sometimes the hands, they do get lost, but for the most part, they're reflecting light and you can catch them and see them pretty nicely. I would say in natural lighting conditions, you don't really struggle to read the watch. So that's nice to see. The lume on this thing is actually pretty good. We have BGW9 lume on the dial and on the hands applied nicely. I'm going to pop up a lume shot here. You can see it against a couple other watches in the collection. It's kind of the same price range and kind of the same style. So you can see how it performs against those. I wouldn't say it's, St. Martin dive watch good, but it is good lume. It's usable lume. I can read it in the middle of the night. For the most part, I've got no issues with the lume on this thing. I think it's actually pretty good. All right, so let's talk about the movement in this thing. So the movement is the Seiko NH34. Seems to be used in pretty much everything lately. It's a great movement. I've got no issues with it at all. 21,600 beats per hour, so 6 ticks of the second hand every second. It hand winds about 40 hours of power reserve. It has an independently adjustable GMT hand, which I'll show you here in a little bit, and a quick set date. So yeah, again, I've got no issues with these movements. Here's how mine has been running. I can't complain about that at all. I think the beat error is a little bit higher than I'd like, but still, accuracy-wise, it's been great. I've had it on wrist for the last 3 days, and I believe it's about 10 seconds fast. So really not that bad at all. The movement is operated by this 3 o'clock screw-down crown here, nicely guarded by those big crown guards, and I've got no issues getting a grip on the crown. It's plenty grippy, a good size in my opinion, nicely guarded, but not in a way that hinders use of the watch here. So very happy with that. Nice smooth screw in and screw out action. First position is your hand winding. Second position is where you set your date and your GMT time. So you roll it backwards here. You can see quick set date. Rolling it forward, you get nice solid jumps of that GMT hand. So really very satisfied with the movement. I've got no issues with that at all. Everything functions as it should. Pulling it out to the third position is where you set your time, just as usual. So yeah, no issues. The crown feels nice and solid in there as well. Yeah, nice positive clicks. I've got no issues with the movement, no issues with the threading. nice and smooth, really, really smooth. It does wind the movement while you're threading, but other than that, I've got no issues with it. It is really super smooth. All right, so let's talk about the bracelet on this thing. So the bracelet, if you've seen a San Martin or had a San Martin of recent with this style of bracelet, it's pretty much the same thing. It's a 20 millimeter tapering down to 16 millimeter. It's 3 solid links, beautiful brushing on the top, nice satin brushing on the top, very consistent, and polishing on the sides. You got screw pins for adjusting. I removed 1 link for my 7.5-inch wrist. You have solid end links, female pivot end links. You can see there, really nicely finished on that first end link there, or on that first middle link. Nice tight tolerances in here. I mean, there's no wiggle room at all. The spring bars they use are nice, high quality as well. The overall fit and finish of the bracelet is excellent. You got nice tight tolerances. This bottom edge here, they seem to have rounded this off just a little bit, so it is a pretty comfortable watch. And then getting to the clasp, kind of the star of the show on this bracelet here. This is their new on-the-fly clasp. Signed San Martin logo there. Beautiful brushing on the tops and on the sides. Nice polished chamfer there as well. Everything here nicely rounded. There's no sharp edges, no sharp corners or anything like that. It functions perfect. I've had 0 issues with it. 2 button pushers there. Releases it, fully milled on the inside. Nice tight tolerances there. Yeah, I mean, this thing opens and closes like butter. I mean, it's really, really nicely done. And then you have the on-the-fly adjustment here. So you press this button, always hard to show on camera. Just press that button right there and you can pull out the clasp there. And then you don't have to press the button to move it in. So I usually put it on wrist, fully extended, and then tighten it down as needed. And it works great. Really nice clicking sounds. I mean, it's a great clasp and it's a great bracelet. Like I said, if you've had one of their bracelets in the past, they're really nice bracelets. There's no jangle to it at all. It feels very solid. Yeah, it's a very good setup. So there you go, guys. That is the San Martin SN0129 with the lapis lazuli dial. These new stone dials, they just recently came out. I expect them to be on a pretty decent sale for the anniversary sale coming up here. Yeah, they're great. The watch itself is beautiful. The only reservations that I had design-wise about it was that bezel, and I really don't think it's as bad in person as it is in the pictures. It's not something that I really notice too often. I would definitely prefer a sloped one, but yeah, this one is actually pretty good. The dial on this, absolutely stunning. That blue, you can see there, really nice shade of blue. It's super dark. It's gorgeous. The kind of random textures and random specks and flakes really add some dynamic to the dial. I think it's excellent. These, even the aventurine I think is going to look good. The blue marble or the white marble, not really my style, but again, I think it's going to look pretty good. The quality and fit and finish of this watch is definitely right up there with $7,000, $8,000 watches in my opinion. So for $350 US, it might seem like a lot for an AliExpress watch, but in the end, you're getting a heck of a watch for that money. And yeah, I mean, these things are great. They're really, really nice. I can see why they've sold so well for them. The case, I think, is a perfect size, and the bracelet is great. So yeah, again, I've got no real complaints with the watch. It's really, really nice. I guess legibility is probably my biggest issue, but even then, it's really not that bad. So I think that's it for me, though, guys. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.